I saw this guy talking on a podcast clip the other day. It really stuck in my head, specifically about doing marketing for listings. It's going to be one of those ones that sticks in my mind for a while. Is like, when I'm doing these videos, I'm not doing it for the client that I'm selling. I am, but I'm doing it for my next client. And it just really stuck with me. Like,
that's how you grow, right?
Yeah, that's hitting the nail on the head there. Like, yeah, you're putting all this money into marketing to sell these properties, but in the same breath, a lot of it is for attracting that next seller.
And welcome back to this week's episode of The American Landman. I'm your host, Neil Hogger, land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate, coming to you from the American Landman Studios as it's snowing out the window in western Wisconsin. Well, today's episode, we're going to talk about marketing. And this is something that a lot of agents and a lot of sellers and maybe a lot of buyers don't really realize what goes on behind the scenes. Because I could tell you from my experience, it's a lot more than going out and taking 20 to 30, 40 video or pictures, putting on the multiple listing service, gets on Zillow, and it's kind of a list it and leave it, hope somebody sees it strategy. If your agent wants to maximize your sale and do a very good job for you and get you top dollar, or even find you a great property, what we're going to talk about is the way to do it. It's the new agent. I'm going to bring on a great guest. His name is Lucas Jones. He's with brokenstrawmedia, and he is the mind behind the scene with some of the greatest names in the outdoor industry. So you're going to enjoy this conversation for sure. Hey guys, one other thing that I forgot to mention. This is our first video podcast that we've ever done here at the American Landman Podcast. And I'm really excited about this. It's a brand new platform that we're going to get on. We're going to be airing this at my YouTube channel, which is called The American Landman on YouTube. Just search Neil Hogger Land Specialist and you'll be able to find it. So please check us out. If you like what we're doing, give me a like, a share, comment, if you will, and I'd really appreciate it. So let's get back to the show. I'm Neil Hogger, and I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate, and this is the American Landman Podcast. And welcome to the show, Lucas Jones. Woo! How you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Doing all right, Neil. How about you?
Well, we're trying to step it into the 24th century for me, way advanced. Trying to do audio and visual, so hopefully this comes out right. I appreciate your help.
Yeah, anytime. I'm the one editing it, so it'll turn out good.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know who you are, but you're probably one of the most important people behind the scenes for quite a few personalities that people are watching online and learning about, listening to on podcasts. So that's why I wanted to have you on here, because I don't think a lot of people realize what goes on behind the scenes with our shows. So welcome to the show, and thanks for coming on here to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my full name is Lucas Jones, and like Neil said, I do a lot of stuff for quite a few different people throughout the industry. Do you want me to kind of go through?
Name drop, man. Name drop away.
Yeah. So I've been doing this. I've been doing video and audio for probably the past 10 plus years. Been doing it professionally for the past, I think I'm on year 6. I don't know. Time flies so fast, but I got my start with, as you can see here, Exodus trail cameras. I'm still rocking the Exodus hoodie. That was my start into doing this professionally. So I ran everything from, trail cam radio, whitetail cribs, big buck profiles, you name it. Anything we put out at Exodus, I either had a hand in it or was producing it myself. So I was brought on to help Cam Durr, who was on staff from day one, and I got brought in to help, lighten the workload for him and take some stuff off his plate. So between the two of us for the past, or should I say the last 3+ years of Exodus, we really, that was us that put everything out. And when I say everything, like, there was some points during the fall where we were running a video a day from September 1st through pretty much Thanksgiving, almost into Christmas.
So you're talking a video a day, like you're up in a tree doing videos?
No. So, like, all of the how-to videos on the Exodus YouTube channel, all of the cribs, the podcasts, the how-to videos, the vlogs we did, everything, including, all the shorts, all the reels, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I got
So
turned into this stuff. I remember when I initially uh, started getting into the business, I was always intrigued by not just the sales aspect of being a land specialist, but more of the artistry, if that's a word that's
mhm,
you utilize in this industry. I noticed it. The visualness of it, I think, really drew me in. I think a lot of people are drawn in by that. And that's now morphed into you can't just do videos, although you could do pretty good with just videos.
mhm,
Podcasting and shorts and Instagram and TikTok and just all these different platforms that I, as an agent, as a land specialist agent, I've really embraced. And I think it's grown my brand quite a bit. I think I'm fairly recognizable. I'm not nowhere near some of the guys that you were talking about with, but doing pretty good. And
Yeah.
I really got behind it, but a lot of agents don't. And
Mhm.
I think they miss a huge
Oh,
opportunity,
yes.
right? When they're presenting a property. But as a seller, if you're a seller out there and your agent's not doing this stuff, I think you got to ask them why. Like, why don't you do this?
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's what we could talk about that today, but I'd like to understand who you are, what you do, some of the names you're working with, maybe some nitty. This is like TMZ of podcasting, right? The American Landman
Yeah.
TMZ. So I'd like to know like what's behind the curtain. And then let's talk about some of the things that you do that really, you make me shine because I'm getting tens of thousands of eyeballs on my listings and they're helping them sell really fast.
Mhm.
And you don't know this, but people are reaching out to me going, this is, you're really doing good this year. You were really doing well this year. I'm like, yeah, it's I think it's the marketing.
It's
So,
all Yep.
so let's start with that. Let's start with a little bit about you, where you came from.
Mhm.
Tell us who you are, Lucas.
Yeah. Yeah, so I grew up, small town about an hour northeast of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Um, the running joke, I guess, I have with my family was I was kinda destined to do this slash work in this industry because growing up, my grandfather owned a archery shop in our little town. He was the only Matthews dealer, within quite a few miles, and I spent quite a bit of time there as a kid. That was my parents didn't have a babysitter, they just dropped me off at the shop to go hang out with Pap, so
Hang
I
around sharp broadheads and, not a
Oh,
big
yeah.
deal, right? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been shooting archery since, probably, like, 5, 6 years old, just hanging out there. Um, you know, of course, spending a lot of time in an archery shop, get to see a lot of cool stuff, a lot of big bucks because we were in Pennsylvania at that and
Yeah.
at that time,
Big 6 pointers and forks, you mean?
yes, well, I wouldn't say big sixes because that was right when, the antler point restriction started, so all the old guys were all in an uproar 'cause they had to wait for an 8 point,
Yeah.
and, quick side story, the antler point restrictions nowadays in Pennsylvania have done wonders. The age structure and just the quality of bucks where I'm hunting at has just went through the roof. So, yeah, so not to get too much down that rabbit hole, we'll go back to, kind of who I am. Graduated high school, went to college. Um, Originally went into it thinking that I was going to be like a DNR officer, so I went in for environmental science. Got 3 semesters in, hated what I was doing. Biology, the ecology, all that stuff. It didn't help that I went to a liberal arts school, so like I had to take like physics and everything, and I'm like, how does this relate to you know being a DNR officer? So I switched 3 semesters in history and secondary ed, thinking I was, going to live the all American dream, go back to my hometown, be a history teacher and the high school football coach. And, you know, when I made the switch, the registrar was like, yeah, you'll be out of here extra year at the most. And got to my senior year, and my advisor said, yeah, it's going to be an extra 2.5 years for that teaching degree. So my response was, I'll find something else to do.
See you later, huh?
Yeah. So graduated, bounced around a couple different sales jobs. and, was still, like, just kinda taking, like, a little handy cam on my hunts, taking pictures on my phone. Always knew I had, like, a passion for that and eye for that because, artistic wise, you put, like, a paintbrush or pen or pencil in my hand, looks like a kindergartner did it. But, like, putting a camera in my hand, I definitely had an eye for that. So while I was bouncing around all these sales jobs, I got hit with one of those like masterclass ads for like learn filmmaking, learn how to make this your full time job. So I was making good money. I took the plunge, invested in it because it was a pretty hefty price for that, and it took the learning curve from like just kind of crawling along to it tremendously helped grow, I guess, my skill set and my knowledge. And once I got to a good enough point, that's when I applied at the Exodus job, got that, and haven't really looked back since then. I've been doing video, photo editing work ever since then. I already touched on my experience at Exodus, but after I left Exodus, uh, made the decision that what, it's time to go out on my own, do this for myself, and I've been working for myself with a bunch of different people for the past 3 years now, and it's been just a awesome, awesome experience. I met you, Neil, through actually working at Exodus. That was one of the other podcasts that we worked with there, so I was editing your podcast on top of all the stuff I was doing for Exodus. Obviously, we've kept going through all these years, and it's morphed into the podcast, doing stuff for your listings now. So I work with you. I work with Trey Kearns down in West Virginia,
Whitetail Properties guy, right?
Whitetail
Yeah.
Properties. Um, I still do work with Jake Hofer with it's now the Whitetail channel. So I still do all the Whitetail cribs with him. Help out with the Whitetail podcast, do the land podcast, help him with listing videos here and there. I work with a couple different agents, kind of scattered around the US, some guys in Iowa, you up in Wisconsin, West Virginia. I've done one-off stuff with guys in Ohio and Pennsylvania. And then I also do a bunch of different podcasts too. Obviously yours, the land podcast, the whitetail podcast. I do the habitat podcast for Jared. Um, when Andy was running the deer camp podcast, I did that for him, but that's wrapped into the habitat podcast now. And I got a cool podcast in the work actually for my father, who I think I've talked to you about this briefly. He's been a special ed teacher for the past 32 years and has decided to take the plunge into the podcast world, basically just laying everything out on the table with everything he knows about special ed, IEPs, all that stuff. So that one's coming up in the works here too, but that'll be a fun one. And then I've done hunts for, oh boy, couple different guys. Hunter Hogan, Jake Belinda, Aaron Olson. I've done one-off stuff with Meat Eater. Uh, just a whole slew of guys editing wise, and then like actually filming hunts. I haven't really dabbled into that too much, mainly because my fall is jam packed with editing. Like I've been to Kansas, Wisconsin, been to Arizona on an elk hunt, just kind of all over the place, getting to see some real cool stuff.
Yeah, you're traveling with some of the personalities, right?
Yes, yeah. So,
Well, if you ever want to come out and hang out in this palace here, you're welcome to.
oh yeah. Well, I've been in Wisconsin on a late season hunt, and I don't know if I'll come up after Christmas. That was brutal.
My buddy, well, it's snowing as I look out my office window right now. My buddy
Mhm.
came here from Pennsylvania. My buddy Joe Schmitzer, I've had him on the podcast before, and I remember the first time he showed up. I swear it was like 18 below when we were going muzzleloader hunting, and I said, "Hey, make sure you bring warm clothing because it's cold here." Oh yeah, I'm
Mhm.
good. And he brought Pennsylvania level clothing.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm saying that he was walking out to the stand where I was gonna put him, and by the
Mhm.
time he got there, his hands had frozen to his gun, and the Mr. Buddy they were like he had to peel them off in order to let
Mhm.
go, and then he gets up in the blind, and it was an aluminum box blind. I don't know whoever made these things. It was like sitting in a tin can. The
Yeah.
windows were all frozen. So he's taking the heater and he's putting it up to the windows, trying to get them things to unfreeze so he could open them up. Just a cluster. I think he lasted just a few minutes out there and he came back.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's cold here.
at, during my time at Exodus, we got invited to do, Dan Infault had a public land challenge at Fort McCoy. And it
Yeah,
was,
I wanted there.
it was archery only, middle of January. So it was like me and Chad, Sylvester, obviously Dan was there, Josh Talker was there, Uncle Lou was there. It's my first time getting to meet him, and that's a personality you never forget. Um, and then the guys from Latitude, Alex and Kevin, were also there as well. And I remember, I think it was we were there like Monday through Friday, and we woke up Friday, and the thermometer outside the cabin said -21 degrees, and Chad and I looked at each other like, I think we're
No
leaving
way.
early. I think
Yeah.
we're leaving early.
I mean, I don't think people even understand how cold that is. We had negative
Oh,
41 here 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about exploding tree warnings.
mhm,
That they might have exploding trees. That's nuts. And I've actually experienced that. I hunted 16 below zero up in Minnesota once, and I actually have heard trees expanding and exploding. So it's definitely a real thing. So yeah, I've heard these exploding trees, and it scares the crap out of you. And I tell you what, it does sound like a gunshot going off. It's scary if you've never heard it, but they're not gonna like you're not gonna get showered with shards of tree bursts,
mhm,
but it's damn cold. But I want to take you back to something you said early on about using imagery and advertising. Let's kind of take off on that because
yeah,
for the topic here, I think I'm really talking to real estate agents out there that aren't doing this or kind of thinking they need to. Maybe they don't understand how to do it. Obviously,
mhm.
you're a resource, so you're going to get tens of thousands of calls after this, guarantee it.
I
Um,
like it.
yeah, but the artistry is not something that you hear realtors talk about a lot. And
Mhm,
I know that when I got into this business a long time ago, and I had this idea how this type of medium could be utilized in selling properties, it would actually help you sell more. I noticed little things like these tight shots when you're out and you're pulling up a deer, and you see these guys do these tight shots of the light behind them and the breath coming out of them, or they're getting ready to head to the stand. They're drinking a sip of coffee and it's steamy, or the
mhm.
the tight knurls on the antlers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I mean, talk about that, like capturing that type of stuff, and then how do you translate that into sales? What's the connection?
yeah. So we call those detail shots. So, you know, like the lens that I typically run, it's a 24 to 105. So you can either go really wide or really tight. And, a lot of people, how do I want to put this nicely?
You don't
As
have to
you
be nice. This is truth.
a- as you get more into doing what I do, you start to actually use that zoom function. Seems like a lot of people, starting off, they just want it super wide so that, you can see everything. But, I guess the old saying is the devil's in the details. Those detail shots really do help tell that story. So I guess, you know, like what you were talking about with the detail shots of like the breath coming off the hunter or like close up of the rack, how that equates to, something in real estate, you know, property that I just shot for Trey down in West Virginia. It was a homestead property. So a lot of stuff going on. Um, I can't remember exactly how many acres, but there was like 7 different buildings on the property. The main house was 115 years old, and they had done a pretty good job of restoring it, to its former glory. Someone who maybe is starting out would just, go through with a gimbal super wide, like showing, just all the rooms, and then showing, all the outbuildings and everything. But, talking about the detail shots with something like that, the whole entire property had free gas from an agreement back in like the 20s. So every single room had a gas fireplace. So getting those detail shots, close up of the gas fireplace, definitely helped tell the story a little more. They had a canning kitchen on property there that, was completely unrecognizable before they went in and cleaned everything up, tore everything down. And I got some detail shots of some of the old mason jars that were left in there just to help tell the story of, you know,
There's history.
there is history because they were, I don't know how much you know about mason jars, but they were Atlas mason jars, which are super old, hard to find, and super expensive. And they were sitting on a stack of them in there. So just getting those detail shots there help tell that story just a little better. When you're putting together, I guess, these listing videos, even if it's only going to help tell the story just a little better, that might be the difference between, selling something quick or the property sitting there for 6 months.
Yeah, I tell you what, the other difference it gets. Many times, many times, I've asked myself, is it really worth doing all this stuff? The podcast is kind of a passion project. People may ask me, why do you do it? I've
Mhm.
had top executives of the company. Why do you do this, Neil? Do you make money on this? And I'm going to say no. If you just look at the podcast itself, I don't have a lot of sponsorships. I have some partners. They let me use some of their product a little bit, but it's not mine. I don't get to keep it, and they take it back. I don't get a monthly check. Although some podcasts, the bigger podcasts like
Mhm.
Joe Rogan, or I don't know what I listen to, Sean Ryan show, they get hundreds of thousands of downloads per episode. And yeah, they're making a living on it.
Mhm.
But that's not the purpose of this. And that's not what you do. And
Yeah.
but when you do when you take the extra money and you put it towards a listing, um, and you try to do the highest quality listing you can, and you do those photography, and I mean, you're not doing it with an iPhone, right? I mean, you're coming
Yeah.
in there with some high quality stuff.
Mhm.
It costs money to do that. Let's just
Yeah.
face it. It costs money to do that. And I ask myself quite frequently, and I'm gonna let you answer this of what you think. Does it
Mhm.
help sell the property? Does it make sense? And then I'll give you my answer at the back end. Is the juice worth the squeeze to do that?
Mhm.
How would you address that? You're selling a guy on your services. Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah. Oh, it most definitely is.
How?
I mean, it sets you apart from other realtors. I mean, take we were just talking about you're listing the Tremplo 277.
Yeah,
You very easily
great
could have
example.
just walked around that thing with an iPhone, like, here's a cornfield, here's another cornfield, here's an elevated box spine. But you took the time to get all the drone shots, both pictures and video, and we were able to put together a couple different, posts for that specific property that helped tell the entire story. It's a 277-acre property with, you probably know better how many
Yeah.
acres
Well,
of food on it.
let me tell people about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of different things going on with that property. You got fields going everywhere.
Every
I
which way.
mean, hunting wise, you could probably put 10 plus setups on that property.
Yeah, it
You know,
hunted
it,
big for 277.
yeah. Yeah, we could have very easily, told the story of like all 10 different setups on top of everything else that's going on with that property. So I think going that extra mile, with the photography, the videography, the editing, the whole 9 yards. I said earlier how it sets you apart. Kinda I don't wanna get, I guess, too much into the rabbit hole of psychology, but there's like a switch that flips in your brain like, "Wow, look at how awesome this is. I want that." The thing I guess the easiest way I would think that you could relate to something like that is like when you're getting ready to book a vacation. My girlfriend and I, we do Airbnb all the time. A lot of the times, the Airbnbs that we pick are based off of how good the photos look. Like if we're looking to, go to Florida for a week and, spend, $1,000+ on a place to stay, if we see like, grainy iPhone videos and all the lights are turned off on a place and it kind of looks all dark and dreary, like odds are we're not going to book that place. Whereas someone took the time to hire someone professionally to come in, make sure the lighting was all good, and really show off how nice the place looks. Yeah, we're going to be more inclined to book that place. So I think that's probably, I guess, the most relatable way to explain that answer.
I want to thank today's sponsor of the show, and that's Driftless e-bikes. I've been fortunate enough to be giving one of these bikes a try, and I'm really enjoying it. If you've got technical terrain, or you got maybe a long walk into your stand, I'd recommend you give the Growler a try. It's the name of the bike, and the model that I have is fantastic. This thing's built like a tank. Comes with an automatic light when I get off the truck and I start and I fire it up. If it senses it's dark, it'll turn on a light automatically, so I don't have to mess around with that. Turns it off when it gets light, and I'm able to ride this bike into my stand very quietly, very efficiently, get in and out really quickly. And I tell you what, recently I was in setting up my climbing sticks, and I carried them in on my back with my backpack. It would have been a hell of a long walk, and probably would have been 2 trips to get everything I needed in there, but I just loaded everything up on my backpack and I rode the bike in. So if you guys are in the market for an e-bike, check them out. Just go to Driftless e-bikes on Facebook. I have the Growler, and if you would like to give it a ride, come on out to my place. I'll let you ride it and see if you like it. And right now there's a special discount code for a while, and it's called Road Rash 300. And they'll give you $300 off a bike. And that is in response to a recent post that they did where he was actually pulling a 200-pound buck behind his e-bike and giving a little road rash. So had a little fun with that. Road Rash 300, check it out. The Growler from Birch e-bikes and Driftless e-bikes. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, because if you look at like one project you do, you're not going to see immediate impact of going the extra mile. Because I mean, the minimum requirement is to put a property on the multiple listing service, probably, and on that, you can get 30 to 40 still photos, and you see it all the time where people are selling these properties, but they've got pictures of the road in the camera, like they're holding the camera, and you can see the edge of the road, or you see they're doing it out the window of the car, and you could actually see the mirror in the frame, right?
Yeah.
And they never really got into the woods. And what I started doing this like 10 years ago. So going back to like those tight shots, those emotional shots, I remember talking to people at Whitetail Properties, and I'm like, and they have November studios and they have their own shooters, and they come out and they video and do all that. And as an agent, I was like, this is the coolest part of the job. I want to see these guys come out, and it's like artistry in motion, and watch them with these gimbals and these slides where they'd put the camera on the slide and go real slow. And I don't even know if that's even a thing anymore, but that's what they would do. And I thought that was so cool. I got so jazzed up on that. And I just said to myself, I wanted to start doing this myself. Then the iPhone came out. Okay. And this has been the greatest tool ever. Because the camera keeps getting bigger and bigger and better and better. Bigger and better, and more higher quality. Now it's not at the level of what you shoot, but it's amazing to me how so many agents don't really put this to use just by doing maybe even like selfie videos and talking about a property. That is something that agents could do. And so I've been encouraging people to get out, and I get a lot of response from people where they say, hey, I really like it. You go out on these properties and you video and you talk about the property and why it's a purchase. Why should you make this purchase? What's special about it? And we did that with the Tremolo 277. And I swear I saw a number that we got like 750,000. You tell me, was it engagements or
impressions?
And then we got like 50,000 and counting views, right?
Yeah. So
what's the difference?
I can actually pull up the numbers here. So specifically talking on, Facebook and Instagram, there's impressions versus views. So an impression is anytime your post shows up on someone's like homepage or their feed. A view is typically when someone either like stops scrolling or starts to watch like a video or interacts with a photo. It varies from platform to platform, but that's the general concept of it. YouTube, it's a lot different because an impression is like whenever it shows up on someone's, homepage, or if it's on the sidebar for suggested, if you don't even see it, that's counted as an impression. but a view for YouTube is like when someone actually physically clicks on that video. So it varies by platform, but views are the numbers that you want to look at as compared to impressions.
And then there's watch time too, right? You can measure
Yes.
watch time. And nowadays with, short form media, if you can get 8 seconds of somebody's attention, you probably did pretty good,
Oh yeah.
right?
I guess the golden unwritten rule now, like especially when you're doing shorts or reels, like the vertical content that you can watch on your phones, is you got to capture someone's attention like that, because typically you only got a couple seconds before they're like, all right, on to the next thing, and it's a Mr. Beast reel, or it's a reel of cats or whatever people were watching. You know,
Dancing
y-
hamsters or
yeah, yeah,
girls with short shorts,
yeah, the internet is a wild place. You never really know what you're going to see. So,
right?
you're competing with everything on the internet. So, those first couple seconds there have to be something that's going to make someone stop scrolling.
From a sales perspective, okay, I'm betting 99% of the people that actually look at it, it's not never going to buy it. They're never going to call me.
Hmm.
But I've looked at it like I still want to capture those guys because the algorithms will say somebody's watching this, right? And then the algorithms put it out in front of more people that may find it interesting. And that's how I might reach this buyer that's maybe not in my network
Hmm.
locally, but I could pull them in. And I just had this
Yes.
happen with I got a property under contract today, actually. Well, verbally, I'm going to write it and I'm going to send it to them for signatures, but
Hmm.
they live 5 or 6 hours away from me.
Yeah.
They're not seeing my signs, but they're seeing the social media and they were drawn in by that.
Hmm.
So talk about algorithms and like how do the agents or the sellers and the buyer and the seller agents put that to work, those algorithms?
Yeah. So, again, it varies, platform by platform, but these are super, super complex algorithms with AI built into them that it would take you years to try and figure out how, specifically everything works in that algorithm. And then by the time you figure that out, there's
It's
already
going
an
to
update to
change.
it. Yeah. So basically, how those algorithms work are, I guess the best example is, YouTube. YouTube looks at click through rate. So, like, how many people are actually choosing to watch on your video, watch time, how long they're watching through it. Um, and they look at returning viewers. So, if people are actually binging your content, and it's kind of the same basic concept for, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, because the easiest way to break it down is YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok make more money the longer you're on their platform. They can feed you more ads. That's how they make money. Um, so on those videos that are hitting all those key metrics there that people are clicking on it to watch, and they're watching it the whole way through, those platforms recognize that, hey, these are good money makers for us. Let's keep making money off of it and keep serving it to people. Now, with those algorithms, they have it built in to where it's based off of like your previous viewing history. So say, like, I'm sure, Neil, if you go on your YouTube, when you pull up the homepage, there's a lot of land videos, a lot of deer hunting videos, a lot of farm videos. And that's tailored based off of videos that you've watched, and specifically like videos that you've watched the whole way through. So all these different platforms have these gigantic databases of, all right, this person has these interests. Let's feed them this video that a bunch of other people with similar interests were watching the whole way through. That's how you can really grow your reach online outside of, like you said, like those people were 5, 6 hours away. They've never seen one of your signs locally, but they saw you on social media, because I'm willing to bet people with their very similar interests were watching the whole way through that video, and then it got fed to them. So that's how that works. And that you do not have to like do boosted or paid ads or anything like that. That is actually one of the worst things you can do.
That's good to know because I don't do boosts. I haven't done them for
Yes.
years. I mean, I don't know if this is even right, so you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
I look at I almost can say that it's more about the amount of content and how frequently I put it out there than boosting it, because I have a goal to do at least one post a day.
Mhm.
I'm on Facebook. Facebook's links to Instagram. I used to do a lot on like long form stuff on, like, we're talking like 7, 8, 9, 14-minute long on YouTube. I still do some of that. And I notice
Mhm.
that I get some response from that. I do get people call me. Um, but the short form stuff is stuff that you're doing where it's a minute, and that's up on Instagram, probably on TikTok as soon as you get around to doing it.
Mhm.
And Facebook is maybe a lot of times I'll load up a video that I literally did on my iPhone, and I'll make it an iMovie, and I'll just put some things together, and then I'll put it out on YouTube. It
Mhm.
lives there, and then I grab the link on YouTube and then I put it on Facebook. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm crossing over multiple platforms. And that's how I'm doing it.
So, I do have some feedback on that for
All
you.
right, go ahead. Tear it up, buddy.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll start from the top.
Like, stop doing all that, huh?
Yeah. Um, YouTube is owned by Google. Instagram and Facebook are owned by Meta. TikTok is owned by TikTok.
And they all hate each other.
They all hate each other. They're, for lack of a better term, they're in a pissing match right now to see who's going to be come out on top. So, Facebook does not like to recommend posts with external links off of Facebook. Same with Instagram. Um, YouTube does not like to recommend stuff where you're putting links to like Facebook, TikTok, but they don't really talk to
Okay, but
each
let me
other.
ask you a question there. So, but
Hmm.
I think I'm at 4,300 followers on my Facebook page, on my Meta page.
Hmm.
4,300 people are seeing that video potentially, right? Or is it being blocked from them? Maybe
It,
they're not going to
there's
tell
the
us.
potential that the distribution just gets absolutely killed on
Okay.
that. Um, Now the exception to that, they have obviously the algorithms that they have built for each of these platforms are way smarter than any of us could ever be. It's built specifically to you as the consumer. So it recognizes, oh, hey, this is a link to YouTube. Yeah, we don't want to push that. But say something like all the posts that I do for the new listings, there's a link directly to the Whitetail Properties website with that listing. They recognize that as, oh, okay, well, it it's not to another video or social media platform. So yeah, okay, that's all right. So that there's a little bit of a difference there. Typically, like what you were doing, you're posting on YouTube and then you're putting the link on your Facebook post. It's not really going to get a ton of traffic. Whereas what you need to do is post that same video across all platforms because YouTube, it might do a couple hundred views, but you never know. There might be something interesting about it that on Facebook it pops off for a couple thousand views.
Okay, so
So,
I should make a video, get it
mhm.
edited, even if it's simple as iMovie on my phone. Believe it
Yeah,
or not, I don't think you have to get super fancy with this when you're
no,
just selling a property. People get the sense of it. And then
mhm.
upload that on every platform individually,
Yes,
not
yeah,
copy and paste over.
yep, yeah.
Now the
Upload that.
problem with that though is, like, with Instagram, or that's short, they won't do long form stuff, right?
So Instagram, you can. I'd have to look up and see what the caps are, but um, I know for a while there it was Instagram, you could upload up to 10 minutes. I think that has changed now. I'm pretty sure it's all across the board. You can upload longer than 10 minutes, like almost to an hour. Obviously, YouTube, there's no cap on how long you can upload. Same with Facebook. I'm sure everyone's seen it, the pirated versions of movies that show up on your Facebook feed and it's like 2 hours long. Instagram, I'm pretty sure they bumped it up to 30 or 30 or 60 minutes. TikTok, I know, is an hour as the cutoff. If I'm wrong on those numbers, I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments, but they are ever changing. So I'm sure we're going to get to a point where it's just upload for however long you want it to be on all those platforms.
Well, I found that sometimes I try to upload to those sites and they just won't even allow it. It
Hmm.
comes up with some error and I get frustrated. So,
Yeah. And the workaround to that is, the default now for a lot of these different platforms is shorts, reels, TikToks, whatever you want to call it, those short videos. So like when I'm uploading on Facebook with longer videos, I'm creating it as a post, not a reel, because the reel is the one that has like that 2 to 3 minute cap for vertical. But if you're uploading it as a post, that's where those longer upload limits are.
I wonder if we still have people listening to this because this is like deep stuff. It's like the algorithms and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's stuff that people don't even think about because they
Hmm.
see it and they enjoy consuming it, but they don't know behind it. And as an agent that's doing this, I'll be honest with you. I mean, 2 seasons ago, I did 58 million. Last year, I think I did less than 20 million.
Hmm.
And I'm doing the same amount of stuff, but did it make any difference at all? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could argue that. I don't know, man. I have said this to you many times.
Hmm.
I think I might just give all this stuff up and just say screw it and go back to be a regular agent that sticks it on the MLS, lists it and leave it. And why do all this stuff? But the other side of me is like, I really love going out and like looking at a field or a woods or getting there early in the morning, late in the evening, and capturing that golden hour and really getting the feel of that property. And like, it literally talks to me.
Hmm.
And I have had clients say to me, it's like, I'm looking at you and I can tell you're very passionate about this. It's like, I can feel it watching you look at these little details. I said, well, because I try to capture this on my presentations. And this speaks to you guys out there that are listening. And if it doesn't, tell me in a comment, leave me a comment that says, nope, dude, doesn't speak to me at all. Or yeah, it does. Like, keep it up. Like, give me some encouragement. So,
Hmm.
um, let's talk about financially. Like, how much does it cost to get a guy like you? Because I think somebody's listening to this that's an agent and is thinking, yeah, I want to do that. I don't know, one, how to find them, and two, what do I pay a guy like that?
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, it's going to vary market by market drastically. Like say for instance, I just did my 2026 pricing. I don't want to get, nitty gritty into the details
Yeah, we're
just
not
in
looking for
case.
nitty gritty
Yeah. But like, like listing videos, like
because you might be
couple,
ripping me off. I may be way overpaying.
uh, I wouldn't say that, but whereas like, when we do something, if I'm doing it as a one off for someone else, it's like a couple $100, if
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I mean, and that's because there's a lot of work that I put into that to, the captions, the color grading, making sure it looks good, doing all the 3D animations with like the property overlays, the distances to the different cities, call outs for, specific landmarks in the distance, all that stuff. There's a lot that goes into those 60 seconds. So it's all going to be dependent on your location. You know, out where we're at in the Midwest, it's probably going to be a little cheaper. If you're an agent in Florida, it is super competitive, and I would imagine that price per video is going to be a lot higher
yeah,
than someone in Wisconsin or Ohio or Michigan doing it.
yeah.
So
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I should say how much I'm spending. I'm going to. Is that all right?
okay, yeah,
All right. I already said this. I think I said this earlier. So I had a budget of. I haven't said it here. I don't think I had a budget of about $100,000 two seasons ago in 24,
hmm,
which was spent in 25. I think is how it worked.
yeah,
The 25 going into 26 budget now is about 50,000 because my sales suffered a little bit.
hmm,
And so when it comes to marketing dollars, this is my point, is like, what's the return on investment? It's so hard to measure.
yes,
And you can't always measure it in sales because the branding is absolutely off the charts. Because
hmm,
people come up to me, it used to come up to me occasionally and I would see guys, but now I'm being 100% objective on this. I get people almost daily that call me. A guy just texted me. He came from social media and he's an investor and he's listening to me. And so those are the things that they're not measurable because
yeah,
it's future business and
yep,
you're investing into your business to get there.
hmm.
That's marketing dollars are a hard thing for people to swallow.
Oh yes, very much so. You guys, specifically real estate agents, a lot of the time you're treating it as you're running your own business, so you want to see that exact ROI on your spend there. But it's tough. It really is, just because. some of those metrics, for instance, Meta Business Suite, it is a royal pain in the ass to pull analytics from it. Like I had to walk you through it, and even
I
before I
just
was
said,
walking you through
forget
it,
it.
I had to walk look up hey, how are you actually able to pull all the analytics on this? Whereas YouTube, it's super clean, cut and dry, super easy to navigate with all the different analytics. So it's like you said, it's just one of those things. It's hard to measure your ROI on marketing spend, but like you said, you have guys from all across the US between your listing posts and your podcasts that are contacting you.
Yes. I'm
So
just struggling
it's
to figure out how to monetize that. I mean, you spend an enormous amount of time, and again, your brand is huge,
mhm,
okay, because they all know you, and they talk to you like they know you, and they call you up, and some of them
yeah,
even come up to you outside, and I'm say, "Hey, I'm sorry, man. Do I know you?" And he's like, "Oh, I listened to you in your podcast. I know you wouldn't know me, but I
mhm,
listened to you. I really enjoy it." And so, you're reaching people. And for me, a lot of this stuff, man, is a total passion project. It just
mhm,
is. It's not, I'm not making money doing this. I'm making money when I sell property.
yes,
And
and
I look back over the years, I would, if I mapped it, I'm sure it'd be a slow tick up with
mhm,
big peaks and valleys at times. But
yeah,
um, and over time, maybe the number of deals you do, like now that I've got Jeff Fern, my sidekick, you know,
mhm,
I'll do 30 deals a year on average, and that'll be 15 to 20 million. Then also I have a big, huge year and make 58 million. And
yeah,
then, but next year, I don't know. This year, honestly, I mean, okay, so maybe this is the point. We've been doing this consistently. If people look at us and you're going to see all these videos that you're making and we're
mhm,
dropping, we've got 3.5 to $4 million under, in our bag already in the first quarter's not even over. And that's
yeah,
really big. We don't normally get that in the upper Midwest this time of year. It starts off much slower. And I'm
mhm,
usually the horse on the last turn of the year. Coming around that last quarter, man, I start gaining steam, and I always surpass a lot of guys on our team. And I sometimes win the whole shebang. It's
mhm.
always in that last quarter, but maybe all of this stuff is actually working. Are you ready to make a purchase and become the next American landman? Or perhaps you have a tract of land that you're ready to sell, just want to be sure you're working with the most qualified land specialist agent you can find. Well, it all begins with finding the right agent, a land specialist agent. Whitetail Properties Real Estate is the leading land sales broker in the nation. Our mission is simple. We exist to connect the buyer and sellers of American land. Our land specialists are specifically trained to sell land, be it farms and ranches, timber, mineral, or recreational tracts. And we have agents in almost every state of the union waiting to serve you. If you're ready, give me a call, send me a text or an email. I'll ask you a few basic questions and then connect you with my network of the nation's best landmen and landwomen. We have land specialists in almost every state of the union, coast to coast. Get in touch with me. I'm Neil Hogger. I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate, and I want to be your guy in the land business.
I want to back up here for a second to a point that you brought up
Yeah.
about, monetizing this, and you're not making money off of this, but you're making it in the deals. There's something to be said, obviously about something that pops off for a boatload of views. Like that Trempolo 277 that we just got under contract for you. The initial listing video on that, we didn't boost it whatsoever, and just organic views. We got 73,000 views on that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Across the board with the amount of times that we've posted that property, we're probably pushing you know, 150, maybe coming up on 200,000 views across the board for that entire property there. So, you might not have made the money on the views there, but you made the money on the sale.
Yeah. And that was a
With
1 point. I'm not going to say yet because it's not public. Yeah, it is actually.
Mhm.
It's public. That was a $1.8 million deal,
Yeah.
and got totally lambasted when I put it up. Like, it's too expensive and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And then we started doing these quality videos, and that got in front of a very quality buyer.
Yeah.
Number one, he saw that, and another buyer, or another seller saw that video, and he wasn't even in my market. And he called me up and said, "Hey, I've got this 450 acre, 9,000 square foot home, 1 mile of river frontage, and I can't get it sold. My agent's not doing anything like you're doing.
Mhm.
Can you come and list my property and do that to it?"
Mhm.
So that happened.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm referring that to one of our guys on my team, and he knows who he is, but
Yeah.
so maybe I get a referral off of that, and maybe that's part of the business model of doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that shows you. So he responded, but yeah, that property, got land based on the price, found a quality buyer in 30 days, and who really loved it was the seller.
Mhm.
He was so touched that we went that far, and he didn't
Yeah.
get to see it, but I went back out there. I have other videos. We're going to do a sold video on that, right? Would make it
Mhm.
really dramatic, but it's kind of like the closing out. So
Yeah.
my followers will find that. And I'm not here to like brag about my process, but I'm telling people that are doing this as well. These are the things that we're doing, and it's very well scheduled and choreographed and produced, and it's purposeful
Mhm.
because I'm going to get referrals from that. Hopefully, I'm going to get new clients that see that, and they're drawn to you because of the quality, because their agent just lists it and leaves it. That's it.
Yep.
They don't
Yep.
do any of
Well,
that. MLS and nothing else.
it all goes back to, perception. You know, if my listing agent isn't gonna, put forth a ton of effort into marketing this, like, what is he really gonna put effort into with helping me try to sell this?
You hope people see the difference.
Mhm. Yep. So,
You do.
um,
So
wanted to hit on one point here too. You talked about, getting land based and everything on the price with that, but you found a buyer. That same property I was talking about earlier down in West Virginia with that homestead
with
on
the
it.
mason jars,
Yeah, you know, when we posted that, the amount of comments we got on it, with people, same thing, like, oh, who would pay, that much for a property with a bunch of outbuildings and everything on it? And it went under contract in, I want to say, 4 days
yeah.
from a buyer from a completely different state. Wasn't even from West Virginia. We're even close to West Virginia. It was a buyer from way far out of state that saw the video.
Well,
So,
the truth is, I love it when those guys say anything. And if you
mhm,
follow me, now you guys are going to get, I'm pulling back the veil for my listeners. Follow me, and you will see me engage with these people, and they'll ask a question. And it's hard, honestly, sometimes after you've been doing this business for a while, you feel like you get a little jaded probably, and you think everybody's attacking you, and maybe they're not. And
mhm,
one guy this morning, Bart, if you're listening, he commented, "How come that property is $12,000 an acre when you know very well that the average price per acre in this area is probably 45 to 55? How do you explain that?"
mhm.
And I know Bart, and I know he wasn't giving me a hard time,
Yeah.
but other people read that and they're like, "Yeah, here we go. He's really giving it to you." And I gave him an answer, and I said, "Well, it's the economy of scale in reverse. A
Mhm.
smaller acre parcel is worth more money. It's like
Yep.
this area here is $10,000 an acre. A 3 acre lot is $90,000,
Mhm.
$30,000 an acre, right?
Yeah.
3 acres, 30 times three is 90. That's how it is. So the smaller, but I explained that to him, and I
Mhm.
called him actually, and I took the opportunity to call him up, which he loves as well, because I'm willing to have that engagement. But
Yeah.
the more, I don't call them idiots, I'll stop short of calling idiots out there. The more the naysayers badger you and you interact with them,
Yeah.
those algorithms just blow it up, and it's amazing. And then it gets a life of its own, and you're like, you just sit
Mhm.
back and let it happen.
So, not to get too nerdy on you, but I guess the technical side behind that is same thing. It goes back to the algorithms that Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whoever built. They see people engaging and interacting with that content. So that counts as a view on that piece of content. So again, the more interactions, the more it's going to get pushed out. And also on top of that too, there's something to be said about building depth with your audience. If you're just getting a bunch of comments and you're just, letting them go like, yeah, whatever, I'm not going to respond to it. yeah, it'll still get distribution. But if you're actually like you taking the time to respond to some of these people and talk with them, who knows? You might completely change their mind on land in your area, and they might become a buyer for you one day. They might
Yeah, well,
be,
this property, the Polk 15, is going to go under contract tonight. As soon as I get off this, I'm going to go
hmm
write the offer. And it came from one of these viewers, and then I called them, and we talked a long time, and then I was able to send them these videos that I made. And I don't know that you've actually made one yet, but now it's under contract. You're still going to have to do one. Okay, so
yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
there's a file full of stuff there waiting
hmm
for you to work your magic. And that's part of our agreement, is that I let you have your creativeness, let it work. Like,
hmm
do something special, buddy, and make it happen. And
Yep.
and people respond. But they saw that video and they called, and then we talked for a long time, and we talked 3 or 4 times. The last conversation that Becky and Kurt talked to me about was, when we buy this from you and we close it, can we still stay friends? Because
hmm
you just seem like the same kind of guy as I am. And I'm in my 60s and they're in their 60s. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. This doesn't just end here. I'm not just an agent that's going to sell you something. You bet we're going to be friends and we're going to work together. And then we're
hmm
going to, my sponsors, Vitalize Seed, they've sponsored the show here. I'm planting that seed in there, and they'll be an ongoing, customer of mine. So yeah, those are the things that I think this type of marketing makes this job so much more fun personally.
hmm Oh
I know
yeah.
it's so much more rewarding because I do this, and that's why I keep doing it. So
hmm
I want to go a
Yeah.
different direction with you. I want to ask you the future of marketing with AI, because I know you got some thoughts about
Mm.
that. So what's going to
Okay.
happen with AI? Because I'm using it a lot in my business. I
Yeah.
want to use it more. What's AI going to do for us?
Phew. This is a
You out of a job?
I don't know. I mean, I have been trying to stay ahead of the curve
Yeah.
when it comes to AI
Did you see what they did
because
with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise?
mhm,
You saw that video?
yeah.
When you first saw it, did you think that was Pitt and or Brad Pitt and Tom fighting? Because I did.
Yeah, I did too. And then, obviously with what I consume on YouTube, I saw right away that it was, all AI generated.
God.
And it's absolutely incredible some of the stuff you can do nowadays. Like
Yeah.
I I was tasked with making an ad for a company that came out with a brand new product. You know, it's very time sensitive, so it had to be done, within 2 weeks to hit that window of selling for that product, and I had next to nothing to work with. So I created a whole entire ad out of AI for it, and its conversion rate is just insane right now. Obviously that's going to tailor off as we get, further and further into the spring, but just with AI, like I guess a great example, when I was shooting that listing video for Trade down in West Virginia, that homestead, the one bedroom, the sunlight was just super harsh coming through the windows. And anyone that shoots real estate knows how much of a pain in the butt that is to, expose for a dark room with bright windows coming through it. And it's especially hard on video because you can't do what they call bracket shots where it's, high exposure, low exposure, middle, and you combine them. So it was, it just looked out of place on the video. So what I did is I had 2 shots of that room that I really liked. One of this corner, one of the other corner, and you could see the middle there. So I plopped that into AI. Here's my start frame, here's my end frame. Type in, the prompt, hey, make this a slow-mo video. And 20 seconds, it pumped out, a video of the slow pan of the room showing everything, making it look like part of the video. And then it even went as far as, it created the flames on that gas place to actually look like flames, all off of 2 pictures. And it's crazy the stuff that you could do. And, after that and after making that ad for the, company for that brand new product, it was the first time where I actually took a step back and I was like, "Wow, I might be out of a job here soon."
Yeah.
But for what I do specifically, AI, it's not gonna replace creatives altogether. You're never gonna be able to And I might eat my words on this, in 5+ years, who knows with the way AI is going, but you're never going to be able to recreate or replicate the true creativeness of a human being. But AI is going to be the workhorse behind that creativity. So, like with listing videos or just listings in general, you know, I'm using AI to help build the scripts. I'm using AI for voiceovers. Um, Obviously, I'm putting everything together on it, but even in the editing software, like with Adobe, there's AI built in to do to transcribe what's being said and add captions on it. And I do that all by hand so that I know it's done right and it looks good. But you don't even have to do that on there by hand. You can export the video, throw it onto Opus Clip, and AI does all
That
the
rich
captions for you.
country voice is all AI generated.
Yeah. So, and then, when I'm doing the listings, I have templates built out on ChatGPT to where I feed it information, and it's rinse and repeat of making that same exact description so that all of your descriptions on those listing posts all look consistently the same. And it's it's crazy the amount of stuff you can do with it. Um, in the right hands, it is a super, super powerful tool. Now, how this relates to like you know, a regular, I wouldn't say a Joe Schmo, but like a listing agent is, that's just starting off, you might not have the budget to hire someone like me and come out and shoot it, or, you're just shooting on an iPhone. You can use ChatGPT as basically like, your own personal assistant. So a lot of people don't even use ChatGPT, right? Like generate me an image of XYZ or make me a post for this. It's a lot more powerful than people think, especially if you're asking it those specific questions like, hey, I have, say, the Tremplo 277. I have a 277-acre property that I'm listing for Whitetail Properties. It's got XYZ attributes on it. I want to sell it to my ideal customer, which is XYZ attributes there. How should I go about marketing this? And it'll spit out within a couple seconds a complete marketing plan for you. So it's all on what you ask AI to do is going to determine how much it actually does for you. So the more you can ask it and the more in depth you can get into those questions, the more it's going to be able to do for you.
Well, I'm using it right now to help me understand market dynamics and
Hmm.
growth projections. And that's kind of cool. Like on my ranch out in Kansas, I said, I'm in Rooks County. I described the property based on these attributes of a property. Can you find similar properties? What were they priced at? How much year over year increase can I expect in a normal year? And what can I expect in 5 years? With if I improve it these ways, blinds, feeders, water holes, food plots, whatever. I
Hmm.
was blown away. I was blown away by the projections that it said, and it was spot on. It knew things like, well, your farm has multiple points of access, which is a real advantage if you're a hunter based on predominant winds of the day or even the time of day. I mean, it went down this. I was like, holy cow, this thing's good.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering if you can use, if you're going to see this, and I don't know if I'm really free thinking now, but okay, so you got a guy and you want to excel this experience of hunting on my ranch.
Yeah.
Could you create like a short clip of a hunter where the video kind of comes from outside of the blind? You could see the big, the sunset's going down the distance. You see my blind and the corn, and then it comes through the blind window and it kind of comes past me and goes out. And then down in that food plot is a beautiful 170-inch buck. And can you reproduce that? That's what they want to see, right?
Yeah.
Can you make that through AI?
Short answer, probably. And the only reason I say probably is because AI is just like Facebook, Instagram, and all these other platforms when it comes to weapons and killing. So, is I mean, I could probably do it as long as I have, a couple base images to work off of.
Mhm.
But like when it comes to going through the blind, showing you, and then going back out to show the buck, if there's a gun
If
or a
there's
bow
a
sitting
weapon, a
there,
barrel sticking out the window.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little sticky there.
Okay.
Like I was working on a thumbnail yesterday for the Whitetail podcast that just went out. And a lot of people use AI for image upscaling, taking like older photos or like grainy older smartphone photos and using AI to make it look like these awesome looking pictures like from a professional camera. So I uploaded this grip and grin of this guy holding this big old 160-inch 10 point, and it immediately flagged it because it was a dead deer and there was a bow in
Didn't
the
like it,
picture.
huh?
Nope, did not like it. So
I
I
know
mean,
that I know that ChatGPT is a little liberal leaning because I tried to last night. I was messing with her and my wife, and I was trying to get her to say something that she didn't want to say, and I
yeah, that.
I kept coming back around it. And my wife's like, she's not gonna do it, and I'm like, I know,
Mhm.
but then you go to Grok. And you can get Grok to say some crazy stuff. If you ever
Oh
tried
yeah,
Grok, I'm
yeah.
talking like X-rated stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. It.
So Grok doesn't have the filter that ChatGPT girl has.
Yeah, it all depends on, the developers and obviously
Right.
their views and beliefs, but it's I wouldn't say borderline. It is scary
Mr.
nowadays
Musk is a
what
little
you can
bit
do.
crazy.
It's yeah, it is scary. So,
Awesome.
but
Wait a minute. Go
I
ahead, and
did
then we probably should get this wrapped up. But I know you had a couple more things to say. Go ahead.
I just have one or two more points that I want to leave everyone with, specifically if you're a real estate agent. We talked earlier on like organic reach versus paid.
Yeah.
Do In my opinion, it is not worth it to do paid ads for listings. One, it is a major pain in the butt. There's the Fair Housing Act that you have to follow through, like if you're putting ads on Facebook and Instagram. So like typically on, you know, ads that you're running on social media, you can really, really narrow down that group you're targeting specifically to, age group, demographic, what their interests are, all that stuff. With real estate, with the Fair Housing Act, you can't do that.
Mine get kicked back all the time when I was doing
Yes,
it. I gave up on it.
you cannot with that Fair Housing Act, you cannot dial that in the way you want it to. Like you can't tell it like, "Hey, this is a $3 million listing, and I want to target people that are in the top 10% of income."
Right.
You can't do it. So same with like boosting posts. Boosting posts is one of the worst things that you can do because again, it's not tailored to, a specific demographic, age group, interest, whatever. It's just going out to everybody.
Right. You could try to set the parameters of a zone. I want this many people, and they're like, okay, you got
Yeah.
6 million people in that or whatever, and then you can go through and pick your interests that you think they're going to be interested in. You can kind of do that, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's not really super targeted. And
No, you really can't really narrow it down. At least I can't, and other people that run ads that I've talked to, they have issues with it too. So the other one I wanted to touch on, video versus photo. Previously, back when like a couple years ago when TikTok was getting big and reels were the, latest greatest big thing. Video was king, but it all goes in cycles. So don't just focus on just photos or just videos. It's got to be a good mix of both because, video on TikTok might do well, but it might not do well on Instagram just because of the way that algorithm is programmed. But it could be vice versa. You can post photos to TikTok, and if it's with, trending music or whatever, it might pop off. But Instagram that time of year might really be pushing photo carousels. Like I was just reading the other day, photo carousels are a big thing for Instagram right now. They're really, really pushing that heavy. So don't just limit yourself to one or the other. Do a good mix of both.
so when you're working with people, I have a couple
Hmm.
questions for you. Do
Yeah.
you guide them? Like, are you gonna like we're working together now? Are you gonna call me up and say, Neil, I need to do a carousel of this, or with your service, like I just share my Google file with you and you're able to go there and do whatever you want. So
Hmm.
you're like my social media manager, right? Do
Yeah.
you just do that automatically without like your agent that you're working for telling you, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, obviously we talk quite frequently about, the different listings that you have going on,
Yeah.
and we have a plan of attack for each individual listing that's a good mix of both. So, if you're booking me for like, the full gamut, the full run, I'll be able to go and do that all. But if I'm trying to walk, I guess, like a fine line with my business of, you know, not giving everything away for free, but still, providing value to that
Right.
client. So, if someone calls me up and says, "Hey, I got a listing in, Michigan, I want you to come film and make a listing video for me." I'm not just going to show up, film it, edit the listing video and say, "Here you go," and be done with it. Like you talked about how Jeff helps you out now. The couple listing videos I've done with him, I've sent them to him and then been like, all right, this is how you post it. This is where you post it. This is when you post it.
Yeah.
I'm not just leaving people high and dry and saying, well, here's your video. Best of luck.
Jeff is kind of like an as needed type guy for you, like when he has it, because he's building his business. And for
Yeah.
the listeners, I'm like, I got you on salary. Let's just
Yeah.
and I think I'm paying you like closing on 10 grand a year. But,
Hmm.
and then you've got multiple guys like me, and that's how your businesses grow.
Yes.
And for me, for guys like looking for, well, is that a good price or bad price, Neil? I don't know. I actually, before I ever got with you, I went around and I tried to find marketing companies that did what we're doing now. I
Hmm.
said, this is what I want. I try to explain these tight neural shots with a grip and grin and the steam coming off the dead animal or whatever. And you know, all
Yeah.
the stuff and none of them got it. And they
Hmm.
were going to be about $6,000 to $10,000 a year. And I was going to get a whole team of people was their pitch. They're all going to be working on. I'm like, okay, but if you don't get what I do, which
Yeah.
they don't, this is never going to work. So I don't know how I found you, and probably it was through Jake or other people that
Yep.
in talking to those guys, like I got into this inner circle. And so
Yeah.
now you're my guy. So Lucas is a guy now that I don't need to tell you what to do. I think
Hmm.
all I do is I text you, go, hey, Lucas, I just put up a new listing. It's the Trempolo 277. Everything's in the file. And when
Yep.
I add something, I say, hey, Lucas, I just added some more video to the file. Or if I do have an idea, you're pretty good about it.
Hmm.
I say, okay, this is what I envision. I want to
Yeah.
do a sold video on this. I want some dramatic music. I'm going to do some voiceover. You guys are going to see this come out if you follow me. I'm going to do some voiceover. So I recorded it in the studio. Can you put something together? And this is like the farewell video for Robin, who is dying of cancer. And hopefully we get this done before he passes away. I'll be honest with you.
Hmm.
It's getting that critical. So we got to get going on that. But
Yeah.
I got a little goosebumps when I said that. Has nothing to do with sales. It
Yeah.
doesn't have anything. It's already sold. I got my money.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna do this for this guy
Yep.
because it's his farewell memory of this beautiful. So it's got to be beautiful and it's got to be dramatic. And we got the footage, right? We got it.
Hmm.
So you're gonna
Yeah.
work your magic, and it's awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. That'll go live. I'd have to look at the schedule, but I think it's either going to be Thursday or Friday of this week.
Oh, good.
So,
All right. Can't wait to see
yeah.
it.
Um, and I guess to piggyback off of that, you know, my Instagram, obviously, of course, now is full of a ton of real estate, marketing, business, videography, hunting stuff. And I saw this guy talking on a podcast clip the other day. It really stuck in my head, specifically about doing marketing for listings. And quote, it's going to be one of those ones that sticks in my mind for a while was like, when I'm doing these videos, I'm not doing it for the client that I'm selling. I am, but I'm doing it for my next client. And it just really stuck with me. Like, that's
Right. That's
that
how you
is,
grow, right?
yeah, that's hitting the nail on the head there. Like, you're not, you're not putting all, yeah, you're putting all this money into marketing to sell these properties, but in the same breath, a lot of it is for attracting that next seller.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
So,
we should wrap this up, guys. So, hey, if somebody wants to get a hold of you and you have some time to absorb another client, how do they get a hold of you?
yeah, Neil, thanks for having me on again. And, if anyone wants to get in contact with me on social media, I am on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as Broken Straw Media. I'm also going to be expanding the YouTube that I have coming up here very shortly, starting to put out some, tips and tricks on basically everything that I do, podcasting, YouTube, real estate, marketing, social media, the whole gamut there. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming later this year. If someone wants to directly get a hold of me, my email is brokenstrawmedia@gmail.com, no spaces, all lowercase. And my phone number is 724-504-3354. Just shoot me a text or give me a call. If I don't pick up, just leave me a voicemail and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Awesome. Well, Lucas, thank you for doing the work that you're doing for me. I really appreciate it. As I know, I'm like cat on a hot tin roof. It's hard to nail me down sometimes, but when
Mhm.
you're running around with your hair on fire, it's good to be able to just trust somebody and turn it over, and you know that the quality is going to be there. So I really want to thank you for helping me do all that. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, and I thank you for putting your trust in me.
All right. Thanks for coming on. All right. I really enjoyed that conversation with Lucas. I tell you, I'm not joking. The creativeness of doing this job, of sitting on top of a ridge and getting the fall foliage and the ducks taking off on the water and flying my drone over the most beautiful scenery in West Wisconsin. It is what makes this job interesting. But in order to get this all together, I don't have the skills to do that, guys. I can't do that. And that's why I hired Lucas. He's my guy. I'm able to gather all this information, videography, photography. I maybe send him a text and say, this is my vision. What do you think? And oftentimes I say, hey, man, just take the creative latitude, go do your own thing. And that's what he does. So he's a great asset to my team. And if you really want to grow a business and have success in the land industry, it's so visual, it's so emotional. I just think this is something that you have to do. So give it a try, give them a call. And if you do, and if you work with them, let me know how it's working for you. And I really appreciate it. Hey guys, as always, thanks for supporting my sponsors. The new big sponsor of my show is Vitalize Seed. I plant it on my farms. I'm putting it on the properties that I'm selling. I'm setting up beautiful food plots. So check them out. They're a great product and a great company, and we'll really appreciate it. With that, I'm going to sign off. I'm Neil Hogger, and I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate. And this is the American Landman Podcast.